The Springfield Three. On the morning of June 7th, 1992, a small house on East Delmar Street in Springfield, Missouri sat completely undisturbed. The doors were unlocked. The cars were still in the driveway. Purses, wallets, keys, even medication, all left behind, exactly where they'd been the night before. The only thing missing was the people. 3 women had vanished sometime in the early morning hours, without a struggle, without a sound anyone could remember, and without a single trace left behind. More than 3 decades later, no one has ever been charged, no bodies have ever been found, and the case remains one of the most haunting unsolved disappearances in American history. This is the story of the Springfield Three. Cheryl Levitt was 47 years old, a hairdresser who'd built a quiet, steady life for herself and her daughter in Springfield, Missouri. She lived in a small house on East Delmar Street that she'd been slowly renovating in her spare time. Her daughter, Susie Streeter, was 19, outgoing and well-liked, with a close circle of friends from Kickapoo High School. On the evening of June 6th, Susie and her best friend, 18-year-old Stacy McCall, had just done something every teenager remembers for the rest of their life. They'd graduated high school. The 2 friends spent the night celebrating, moving between graduation parties around town. At some point, they considered staying over at another friend's house, but the place was too crowded for comfort. So, in the early hours of June 7th, they decided to head back to Cheryl's house on Delmar Street instead, a familiar, safe place to end the night. It was the last time anyone would ever see them. Sometime between roughly 2 and 7:30 that morning, all 3 women disappeared from that house. When people began arriving at the home later that day, concerned that no one was answering calls, what they found made no sense. The front porch light globe was shattered, lying in pieces. Cheryl's bed looked slept in. A window blind was bent at an odd angle, as if someone had grabbed it. And that was it. That was the entirety of anything resembling a disturbance. Everything else was untouched. Purses sat exactly where they'd been left. Car keys were inside. The women's cars were still parked outside the house. Even Cheryl's dog, Cinnamon, the only living witness to whatever happened that night, was unharmed and still in the home. There was something else, too. The answering machine in the house had a message on it. Whoever found it played it, listened, and in trying to figure out what to do next, accidentally erased it. To this day, no one knows what that message said or who left it. It is one of the great, maddening losses in the entire case. A possible clue, gone forever, before investigators ever had the chance to hear it. Word spread through Springfield fast. Within days, flyers with the women's faces were posted across town. Local media picked up the story, and it was the press who first started calling them the Springfield Three, a name that would stick for the next 3 decades. By June 9th, just 2 days after they vanished, the FBI had joined the investigation. Search teams combed wooded areas and remote properties around the city, looking for any sign of the women. They found nothing. But the crime scene itself had already been compromised, almost from the moment people learned something was wrong. Friends, neighbors, and concerned visitors had been moving in and out of the house all day, tidying up, emptying ashtrays, washing coffee cups left in the sink. By the time police treated the home as an actual crime scene, investigators estimated that as many as 10 to 20 people had already walked through it. It's one of the quieter tragedies of this case. Whatever physical evidence might have existed, fingerprints, fibers, anything left behind by whoever was in that house that night, was very likely destroyed before anyone in uniform ever stepped inside. In the months that followed, leads trickled in, but none of them led anywhere solid. Investigators looked closely at Dustin Rekla, a former boyfriend of Susie's. He'd recently been connected to a disturbing, unrelated incident, vandalizing a mausoleum and stealing gold fillings from corpses. and Susie had given a police statement about it before she disappeared. Some theorized her disappearance might have been retaliation. He was never charged in connection with the case. Then, in December of 1992, someone called the hotline for America's Most Wanted. The caller seemed to have direct knowledge of what happened to the women. But before the call could be connected to Springfield investigators, the line dropped. Police later said the caller had what they described as prime knowledge of the abductions, and they publicly pleaded for him to call back. He never did. Years later, a convicted criminal named Robert Craig Cox, who had lived in Springfield around the time of the disappearance and had a personal connection to Stacy's family, told a reporter from prison that he believed the women were dead and that their bodies would never be found. He never implicated himself directly. Investigators have long treated his claims with skepticism, and nothing he said was ever corroborated. In 1997, with no remains ever recovered and no resolution in sight, Cheryl Levitt and Susie Streeter were legally declared dead. Stacy McCall's status remained, like the case itself, in a kind of permanent limbo, officially still missing. In 2007, a new theory pointed investigators toward a parking garage at a local hospital. A ground-penetrating radar scan detected anomalies in the soil beneath it, consistent in size with potential burial sites. It was enough to reignite public attention. It was not enough to justify an excavation. Authorities ultimately declined to dig, citing the cost and the thin nature of the evidence. That's largely where the case still sits today. The Springfield Police Department has never closed the file. It remains, technically, an open missing persons investigation, not a homicide, because without bodies, without forensic proof of what happened, there is legally nothing more definitive to call it. What makes the Springfield 3 different from so many other unsolved cases isn't a single dramatic clue or a single chilling suspect who almost got caught. It's the opposite. It's the absence of anything at all. No bodies, no blood, no forced entry, no witnesses, just a shattered porch light, a bent window blind, and a house full of belongings left behind by 3 women who seemingly stepped out of their own lives and never came back. Janice McCall, Stacy's mother, has spent more than 3 decades keeping her daughter's case in the public eye, giving interviews, attending memorials, refusing to let the story fade. In one conversation years after the disappearance, she said she never imagined, not for a moment, that this is where she'd still be a quarter of a century later, still saying her daughter is missing. Today, more than 30 years later, that's still exactly where things stand. No arrests, no remains, no real answers. Just 3 women who disappeared from a quiet house in the middle of the night, and a silence that has never been broken.